When I followed the system's orders for the third time and bullied the gloomy, penniless campus prince again, I finally lost my nerve. Guiltily, I asked the system, can I not burn him with the cigarette this time? The man kneeling on the floor suddenly lifted his shadowed eyes. The system warned coldly, if you deviate from the plot, there will be consequences. A chill ran down my scalp. But the next second, he snatched the cigarette from my fingers and pressed the burning end hard against the back of his own hand. In his eyes, a deep, suffocating disgust flickered. Hoarsely, he muttered, stop pretending. Br. But, I didn't say anything. Why did he suddenly continue the storyline on his own? When the system ordered me for the third time to humiliate Logan, I flung the stack of bills he handed me high into the air. Red banknotes fluttered down like scattered petals. For a split second, his fair, handsome face stiffened. His thin lips tightened into a rigid line. I curled my red lips into a mocking smile and said, kneel down and pick them up one by one. Maybe then, I'll consider waiving your interest. A textbook villainous line. The club lights were dim and hazy. Rows of expensive wine bottles glittered on the glass table, every bottle worth enough to frighten the average person. A playground for the wealthy. Anything filthy or vile could happen behind the doors of these private rooms. Forcing a boy whose shirt was already washed thin to kneel? Too common. The table next to us didn't even spare him a glance. The boy's gloomy brows tightened for a moment. A hint of anger flashed and vanished beneath his usual coldness. His dark eyes swept over me with a frosty indifference. Then, slowly, he knelt. And actually began picking up the scattered bills. Laughter burst out around us. He really kneeled? God, this guy has no dignity at all. Isn't he supposed to be the famous campus hunk? Doesn't he have any pride? Someone snorted, pride? Even his college tuition was paid by Kathy. Why would someone like him need pride? Really thought that just because Kathy played with him like a pet for 2 months, he could climb his way into high society? He should take a good look at himself. Everyone in my circle came from powerful families. But the Huber family, my family, stood above them all. Naturally, they followed my lead. Watching me humiliate Logan, they eagerly fanned the flames to please me. The boy on the floor didn't even lift his head. His expression was hidden in the shadows. Only his hand tightened slightly around the bills. He could endure anything. No wonder he would someday grow into a ruthless, cold-blooded business king. The mockery around us continued, sharp and derisive. Laugh all you want. When winter comes, every one of you will be bankrupt. You're all on the kill list. So am I. I lifted my hand, tapping the glowing cigarette but against the ashtray's glass edge. Tap. Tap. Stop tapping. Stop trembling. Outwardly, I maintained my vicious heiress persona. Inside, I was panicking. I asked the system frantically, if I keep doing this, won't Logan kill me first once he succeeds later? The system, guaranteed. The day I learned I was the villainous White Moonlight, I had just won Logan's heart. And then the system descended from the sky, announcing that we were nothing more than characters inside a novel. I thought my script was the classic rich girl bravely chasing the poor campus prince, sweet romance. After all, I fell for Logan at first sight. Even though he was sensitive and distant, pushing me away at every turn, even though he ignored every kind gesture I offered, I still chased him relentlessly. He took 1 step back, and I could walk 10 steps forward. I knew he came from a struggling family, that he was thin and exhausted. So I tried everything, bringing him homemade meals, making sure he ate well. He had the grades to get into the best university, so I studied tirelessly just to apply for the same program. He worked day and night to pay his tuition, so I secretly paid his fees and topped up his meal card. I wanted to be his little son, bright enough to melt the ice around him. But the system told me I was nothing but the vicious White Moonlight. I refused to believe it. Then it shocked me, literally. With electric therapy. I believed it. My world collapsed. It said my only purpose was to warm Logan while he was down, and then to drag him into an even deeper hell. Only after he completely broke, turned dark, obsessive, and cruel, only then would the true heroine appear to save him and trigger the real storyline. Now that I had given him enough warmth, and he truly liked me, the next step was to humiliate him. To force him into darkness. I refused. The system said if I didn't follow the plot, I would be erased. Fine. I prefer staying alive. So under the system's threat, my first humiliation took place. It happened the day after we officially became a couple. He brought flowers to see me. They were in full bloom, delicately beaded with drops of water. Some were rare varieties I recognized, expensive ones. I had no idea how long he'd saved up for them. He simply believed I deserved the best. Logan walked toward me through the faint morning mist. For once, a shy and gentle smile softened his normally cold face. And I only lifted my gaze coldly, tugged the corners of my stiff lips, and said, Logan. I was only playing with you. You didn't actually take it seriously, did you? Have you ever thought about whether you're worthy? In that instant, the light in his eyes extinguished completely. Only a frozen, deathly silence remained. My heart suddenly felt like it had been seized in someone's fist, tightening painfully. I frowned, pressing my palm against my chest, trying to steady myself. As my thoughts finally returned to the moment, I saw the last red bill fall silently to the floor near my feet. Logan reached out with a calm expression, about to pick it up. I hesitated. Then lifted my stiletto heel, and brought it down on his knuckles. Not hard. Just enough to assert dominance as I stared down at him from above. He looked up. Those dark eyes, sharp as a viper's, locked onto mine. A flicker of resentment passed through them, and then disappeared beneath the heavy curtain of his lashes. He swallowed all the turmoil behind a mask of silence. A sudden chill swept through me. It climbed up my spine, reaching the nape of my neck. Even the fingers holding the cigarette began to tremble. I lowered my gaze. His hands were slender but clearly defined, so thin that faint veins traced across the pale skin. I shut my eyes briefly. And couldn't hold back anymore. Guilt-ridden and meek, I whispered to the system, "Can I please not burn his hand with the cigarette?" After all, those hands weren't just made for writing code. They also had to wash dishes, tutor spoiled kids, prep lesson plans, pour latte art, and work 3 or 4 jobs just to pay back my money. What a sin. I furrowed my brows, my face twisted with guilt and indecision. And then, he, the man still kneeling on the ground, suddenly lifted his eyes toward me. For a fleeting moment, a storm surged within those shadowed pupils. Confusion surfaced, and just as quickly vanished. The system's cold, mechanical voice echoed in my mind. "Host, as the villainous white moonlight, your mission is to make the male lead hate you, and force him into darkness. Any shred of compassion is completely unnecessary. Finish the storyline as instructed, and we'll not only ensure your safety, we'll even reward you. But if you deviate from the plot, there will be punishment." The word punishment made my scalp tingle again. But Logan suddenly rose to his feet. His shadow loomed over me, oppressive and cold. He took a step closer, and the pressure in the air thickened. His sharp brows were dark with unspoken fury. His eyes locked onto mine, deep, black, and terrifying. The next second, he yanked the cigarette from my fingers and pressed it hard against the back of his hand. In his eyes, anger, pain, disgust. Held back with frightening restraint. Through clenched teeth, he said hoarsely, "Stop pretending. Br. I didn't say anything. Why does he keep advancing the plot all by himself? I even stepped on his hand. And he still thinks I'm being pretentious? Does that logic even track? Has Logan gone mad from being too pissed off at me?" The boy's breathing grew ragged from the pain. His beautiful brows furrowed tightly. Only when a charred, blistered wound formed on his skin did he finally flick the nearly extinguished cigarette to the floor, right at my feet. Then he turned and walked away without a word. Only the system's emotionless voice remained in my mind, "Logan's corruption level, plus 30%. A villainess doesn't just do evil once." As a key cannon fodder propelling the plot forward, I, though born a wealthy heiress, clung to the male lead like a cursed ghost every single day, just to trip him up. At exactly 6 o'clock, Logan arrived at his part-time job at the cafe. Through the clean, tall windows, the sky outside had ignited with a fiery sunset, flames streaking across the horizon. The black apron tied around his waist outlined his lean figure perfectly. The warm golden light softened the harsh angles of his face, casting a gentle glow that erased some of his usual coldness. He looked like a figure painted in light. Quiet, striking, beautiful. And there I was, frowning at my chipped nails, mind a tangled mess of nerves. "Wait, you're telling me I have to throw coffee in his face later?" Not far away, the boy who had just been pouring latte art suddenly froze. His expression turned cold. I shivered. Desperately, I blew on the hot coffee in my hand to cool it down, while complaining to the system. "Seriously? Is humiliating the male lead all I ever do in this story?" The system, correct. I was on the verge of breaking down. But there was no use resisting. I had no choice but to steel myself and call him over. Once Logan stood beside me, I put on my most condescending expression. "This is the coffee you serve here. It smells like plastic." I closed my eyes. Forced the last line out of my mouth. "Just like you, cheap and disposable." The moment the words left my lips, I regretted them. My body was still here, but my soul had fled the scene long ago. Logan said nothing. His lashes lowered slightly, gaze fixed on me with unreadable intensity. His silence unnerved me. After a long moment, his lips finally curled into a faint, bitter smile. His cold, dark eyes bore into me. "So this is the new game the Huber heiress came up with to torture me today." His voice was low, hoarse, tinged with sarcasm. "Kathy, are you having fun?" I straightened my back and looked him in the eye. Is this how your store treats customers? It was time. Time to throw it. Time to throw the damn coffee. My fingers trembled as they gripped the handle. Damn it, system. How do you expect me to hurt that face, the very face I fell in love with at first sight? The system, unsurprisingly, played dead. Then, the next second, Logan calmly took the coffee from my hand and poured it over his own face. The liquid slid down his sharp jawline, drip by drip. For a moment, even the air around us seemed to freeze. His eyes, black as night, flickered with pure exhaustion. He stared at me. Satisfied? I froze. There he goes again, pushing the plot forward all on his own. System, is this really how it's supposed to be? But all I got in reply was that same cold mechanical voice, Logan's corruption level, 50%. Before I could even process what had just happened, a gentle voice suddenly broke through the tension. Are you two fighting? A girl in a flowing white dress stepped forward, so graceful and beautiful, it was hard to look away. Worry painted her delicate features as she gazed at the disheveled Logan. I have a handkerchief, do you want to use it? Logan froze, as if stunned that someone was actually standing up for him. It took a while before he slowly reached out and accepted it. His hand, inch by inch, clenched around the fabric. She smiled gently, lips curving with warmth and understanding. Beautiful. Kind. Compassionate. Even without the system saying anything, I already knew. This girl was the heroine. Nina. Her soft kindness was a stark contrast to the system's usual cold detachment. The system, on the other hand, was practically bouncing with excitement. The beautiful and kind-hearted female lead has finally appeared. The plot is finally getting back on track. But I couldn't breathe. My whole body froze, paralyzed. The scene before me played out in excruciating slow motion. Nina turned to look at me. Her brows furrowed ever so slightly, her tone tinged with reproach. I've heard of you, you're that rich heiress everyone talks about on the school forum. I also heard you're dating him. But even if you are, humiliating someone in public like that isn't right. He's a person, with dignity, not some toy for you to play with. I bit my lip until I tasted blood. And realized, I had nothing to say in return. I'm not her boyfriend. Miss Huber made it clear. She said. I'm not worthy. Behind Nina, Logan's gaze was locked on the pale nape of her neck. Like a predator locking in on prey. A look of dangerous obsession flashed in his eyes, unyielding, possessive. The system cheered, yes. This is it. That twisted, possessive, forced love flavor we've been waiting for. But I lowered my eyes. All I could feel was a tight, prickling pain in my chest. My mind went blank. And when I finally turned to leave, my steps were nothing short of desperate. As soon as I stepped out of the cafe, the sun had completely vanished beyond the horizon. The afterglow faded, and dusk settled in. Then came the system's next instruction, have Logan walk you back to campus. That was fast. Another mission already? Strike while the iron's hot. This damn system thinks I'm in a Japanese dating sim or something. I sat down on a bench. The breeze chilled the skin beneath my long skirt, raising tiny bumps on my legs. I wasn't sure how long I waited. Eventually, the lights inside the cafe dimmed, and the street lamp at the entrance flickered on. Logan stepped out, now changed back into his black hoodie, no longer the polished barista, but once again the aloof, emotionless boy I knew too well. I mustered every ounce of courage and walked up to him. With mock arrogance, I ordered, Logan, it's getting dark. Walk me back to campus. My heart was pounding in my chest. Logan shot me a cold glance. Why should I? He took a step forward. Then suddenly paused, frowning, like something had just clicked. You waited out here for 3 hours? I blinked, then nodded slowly. Something in his expression shifted, his brows twitching with a mix of frustration and restraint. His fingers, hanging at his sides, curled tightly. As if trying to suppress something. Then he exhaled faintly and turned to walk away. Let's go. His tone was flat, drained. There was something strange about Logan today. But I couldn't quite figure out what. I trailed behind him quietly, keeping pace. While walking, I asked the system, so the mission this time is really just having him walk me back. That's it? I didn't believe it for a second. And sure enough, the system answered, do you remember that contractor your dad fired for being morally corrupt? I froze. Well, he's back. And tonight, he's bringing some thugs to kidnap you. Your task is to force Logan to protect you. Then, when they're fighting, you run. My stomach dropped. Run? Then what? Call the police? After that, you're free to go wherever you like. Your part ends there. I stood frozen in place. Was this even remotely human? The system went on, Logan will end up in the hospital for at least half a month. That's when the female lead will come to take care of him. Their relationship needs to deepen. What if I don't go along with it? Then you'll be the one in the hospital for half a month. Its voice was icy, almost cruel. He's the male lead. Even if he suffers now, he's destined to become an untouchable power in the future. There's no need for guilt. You're simply helping him grow. But Logan had always been outstanding. These senseless torments were nothing but arbitrary suffering, forced on him in the name of plot. In the end, it was all for that cruel, tragic romance arc. A storyline that required breaking a person. Until he became a monster desperate to be saved. And my job was to create that monster. For once, I didn't argue with the system. I just stayed quiet. So quiet that when Logan suddenly asked, "Kathy, in this world, what do you want most?" I blurted it out without thinking. Freedom. Freedom from the script. Freedom from hurting him again. My steps halted abruptly. I looked up, heart pounding, wanting to call out to him. But before I could call out to him, I realized. We had already turned into a dim, narrow alley. A path I had walked countless times on my way back to school, yet tonight, it felt like a monster lurked within it, baring its teeth in the dark. I snapped back to my senses and reached for Logan's sleeve, trying to pull him away. But shadows burst out from the darkness, several figures rushing toward us. Almost instantly, the tall figure walking in front of me spun around and pulled me into his arms. His warmth wrapped around my whole body. The force of the stick slamming down vibrated through him and into me. I hadn't even threatened him yet. Hadn't even asked him for help. I had wanted him to leave. And now I had dragged Logan into danger again. The next second, he shoved me violently away. Run. Hurry. I froze only for a heartbeat. I didn't even see his face clearly. Then I turned and sprinted, using every ounce of strength I had to escape the alley. The system proudly broadcast its results. Logan corruption level, 70%. Boss, that little girl ran. Go after her. You brat, get out of the way. The shouts faded into the distance. But the heavy, muffled grunts of pain grew softer and softer. By the time I reached the bright entrance of a 24-hour convenience store, my legs gave out completely and I collapsed to the ground. A metallic, iron taste rose up my throat. With trembling fingers, I yanked out my phone and forced my voice to steady. Hello, someone's attacking my friend with weapons. Huada Street, number 98. Please come quickly. I hung up. The system roared in my head, are you insane? Do you understand the consequences of defying the plot? I had no time for it. I immediately dialed another number. George, Lincoln Street, number 98. Someone's trying to kidnap me with a knife. Bring people. Right now. And call an ambulance. Immediately. After hanging up, I forced myself to stay calm. I grabbed a wad of cash from my bag and looked around feverishly. Spotting a couple, I rushed over like someone drowning grabbing a lifeline. Sir, please, help me save someone. I'll pay you anything. Please, please, I'm begging you. My voice cracked at the end, thick with panic. By the time I brought a group of people back to the alley, the moon hung bright and high overhead. Logan was lying on the ground, covered in blood. Nina stood in front of him with her arms spread wide, her expression firm and resolute. The silver moonlight draped over her like a blessing. She looked holier than the moon itself. In my ears, the system mocked, "What did I tell you? Stop wasting effort. The male and female leads have their own story and their own halo. When would a villainess like you ever get to play the savior?" My heart twisted painfully, hollowing out until only a cold, empty ache remained. I whispered to the system, "Will the male lead and female lead always end up together?" The system paused. Of course. Everything in this world was built for them. If they don't end up together, this world will cease to exist. So there's no need for guilt. Think of it as saving the world. People rushed past me and subdued the thugs. Logan lifted his dark eyes toward me. I couldn't tell what emotion flickered in them. But my feet felt like they were filled with lead. Not even a single step forward could I take. 2 days of guilt gnawed at me. In the end, I made soup and went to visit Logan. Strangely, for once, the system didn't object. Its tone was casual, almost bored. "I tested the soup you made. It tastes awful. Logan might even think you're trying to poison him. That could raise his corruption level even more." My foot halted instantly at the doorway. "You couldn't have said that earlier?" Of course the system had ulterior motives. Disdain dripped from its voice. "Weren't you very confident while cooking it?" I rubbed my nose, deflated. I hesitated at the door for a long time. Maybe I should throw this away and order takeout instead. Just as I was about to turn and leave, a cool, quiet voice came from inside. "Come in." I froze. Oh great. I didn't even knock. Stepping into the ward, I carefully set the chicken soup on the bedside cabinet. Logan was leaning against the headboard, reading. His loose bangs fell over his forehead, giving him the same cold, indifferent look as always. When he noticed me come in, he only lifted his eyelids lazily, shooting me a faintly annoyed look. With an inexplicable tone, he murmured, "Miss Huber really is heartless." My cheeks flushed hot. Still, I forced myself to ask the question that had haunted me for 2 nights. "Logan, why did you save me that day?" His fingers, resting on the book page, suddenly stilled. My breath caught in my throat. My face burned red. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat threatening to jump out of my chest. I wasn't stupid. If Logan hated me, why would he instinctively shield me? My fingers curled tightly at my sides. If Logan still had feelings for me, then Logan. Look what I brought you. A clear, bright voice shattered the frozen air. Nina walked in carrying a lunchbox. She paused when she saw me. "Why else?" Logan suddenly let out a cold, quiet laugh. "Even if I didn't save you, you'd find a way to force me to, wouldn't you?" Something inside me cracked, loudly, violently. I blinked, eyes stinging. I turned my gaze away, unable to hide the shame. So that's what he thought. The two of them started chatting happily. As if they had completely forgotten I existed. I pressed my lips together, feeling painfully out of place. Lowering my head, I asked the system numbly, "When's the next time I have to hurt Logan?" The system replied, "Not for a while. Let the male and female leads develop their relationship. You can go meet your designated match in the meantime." My designated match? Clink. The crisp sound was a spoon hitting the tile floor. I looked up and met Logan's dark, unfathomable gaze. His eyes were fixed on me. So intensely it felt like he wanted to tear me apart and swallow me whole. His expression darkened. I took a step back, forcing a small smile. "Logan, I'll come visit you next time." I turned and walked out. Only when I reached the end of the hallway, a loud crash exploded from inside the room. I pressed down the ache in my chest. Looks like I'll need to buy a new thermos. I had just finished a round of tennis with Luke. I stormed out of the gym ahead of him, fuming. Naturally, he couldn't resist being smug. In 2 long strides, he stepped in front of me, tossing his hair back with exaggerated flair. Provocative. Showy. "Miss Huber," he said coolly, "if you suck, then practice more. If you can't take losing, don't play." I raised my racket, pretending I was about to smack him in the face. "Luke, I swear, I'll flatten that smug face of yours with one swing." He dodged playfully, laughing as he leaned to the side. But as I turned my eyes in mock annoyance, they locked unexpectedly with someone standing behind him. My smile froze on my lips. It had been nearly half a month since I last saw Logan. I instinctively looked away. I didn't know why, but his eyes looked terrifyingly dark. Nina stood next to him, her expression strained. Luke, oblivious, turned around. But the moment his gaze met Nina's, his eyes grew cold. He curled his lips into a sneer. "Well, if it isn't my lovely little sister," he said. "What's the matter? Left the Gray family and finally realized you're nothing without it? So now you've resorted to clinging to this penniless loser?" He stood lazily, tennis racket propped on the ground. His face full of mockery and disdain. Logan, probably used to me humiliating him by now, didn't even flinch. His face remained emotionless, his gaze locked tightly on me, the muscles in his jaw taut. But Nina's lips pressed into a stubborn line, her eyes slightly red. She stared back at Luke with defiance. Logan's usual smirk faltered. His brows furrowed. And he took a subconscious step forward. I quickly grabbed him. Looped my arm around his shoulder. Hooked it tight around his neck, dragging him away by force. And just to make sure I was hated thoroughly, I threw in a scornful line, "No point talking to garbage like them. Don't dirty our eyes." It worked like a charm. The system dutifully reported in my mind, "Logan corruption level, 80%. I kept my head low and walked faster. Maybe it was just my imagination, but I could feel 2 scorching stares burning into my back the entire way. Once I finally dragged Logan far enough away, I let go of Luke's neck with dramatic disgust. "Your acting sucks. What kind of lunatic second male lead are you supposed to be?" He huffed twice, quickly hiding the flash of gloom in his eyes. "You're one to talk," he shot back. "Don't think I didn't notice, you couldn't even make eye contact with Logan. Are you the villainous white moonlight, or is he?" I burst out laughing, equal parts annoyed and amused. "And you're the great actor? Please." Your precious sister teared up, and I swear you were ready to kneel and beg to be her dog. "If I hadn't stopped you in time, you'd have gone full OOC." I flipped him off without shame. His face flushed red, speechless. The system had first found Luke for me back when he had just kicked his non-biological sister Nina out of the Gray family, then collapsed outside the house in a thunderstorm, sobbing. I pointed to the electric kettle steaming beside him and asked the system, "This guy? The unhinged, obsessive second male lead? He's my match." The system fell silent. Then exploded. It screamed at the kettle like it wanted to murder it. If you don't want the Gray family to go bankrupt, your parents to die tragically, and yourself to end up rotting on the streets, then follow the damn plot. Luke shut up after that. That's right. We were both bound to the same system. After 18 years of playing the perfect brother, he was suddenly told he was supposed to be a deranged villain who hated the heroine. Luke nearly passed out. So no, we weren't meant to be canon love interests. If anything, we were more like the unethical system victims alliance. I gave his shoulder a consoling pat. He dropped his gaze, staring at his shoes for a moment. Then quietly asked, Kathy, do you really hate Logan? I froze. But he smiled. I can tell you like him. The way you look at him, it's the same way I look at Nina. He turned to face me. And I finally noticed. Luke's eyes were red. The corners drooping in silent frustration. A bitter smile tugging at the edges of his lips. I really love her, he whispered. What the hell? He's OC again. Does this guy have any professional integrity? A wave of sourness welled up in my nose. How could I not like Logan? He was my first crush. My first love. But all I'd given him so far was pain. He probably hates me now. I turned away, eyes damp, lips twitching into a lopsided frown. Then I took the tissue Luke handed me. And the two of us sat there, crying like two fools. The system raged in the background, calling us love-brained, useless messes. The next day, Luke and I had just stepped into the tennis court, when we saw Logan and Nina already inside, standing tall and ready to play. Logan was wearing a full white tennis outfit. It was the one I gave him back in high school. His tousled hair was brushed back, revealing his pale forehead and sharp features. That clean-cut, handsome face drew more than a few stares from passers-by. He walked up to me. My throat tightened instinctively. A green tennis ball bounced in his palm. Down. Up. Down again. Each soft thud echoed in my chest like a drum. But his eyes, calm. Clear. Like still water. He raised an eyebrow ever so slightly. His voice was cool and clipped. Wanna play a match? My tennis skills were actually taught by Logan. Back in high school, wanting to make that gloomy boy a little less withdrawn, I pretended to be pitiful and begged him to play tennis with me. Logan had incredible athletic talent. In less than 3 months, he was already correcting my posture and teaching me proper techniques. Unfortunately, I had no real intention of learning. Playing with Luke now was just a daily requirement from the system, two rookies pecking at each other uselessly. Seeing me frozen on the spot, Luke leaned toward my ear, voice lowered. Don't chicken out, Miss Huber. Bring out the same energy you had yesterday when you said you'd beat me to death. Logan's eyes darkened. His grip on the racket paused, veins slowly rising from the back of his hand to his forearm. Luke remained as nonchalant as ever. He ruffled his hair and raised a brow at me. Watch me hold the field for you. Meanwhile, Nina, who had been silent, lowered her head for some reason, her expression unreadable. 15 minutes into the match. The man who claimed he'd hold the field was nearly on his knees. Luke was bent over with both hands on his thighs, drenched in sweat. What the did he take steroids or something? I was panting like a dying dog too. And your sister's brutal, I wheezed. Why is she only hitting me, and not you? Across the net, Logan and Nina showed no signs of fatigue, only a faint chill on their faces. Who exactly were the villains here? Logan flicked the tennis ball in his hand. His low, raspy voice echoed calmly, again. He swung. The green ball shot across the net toward Luke. Luke cursed softly. Then turned to me with the look of a man about to risk it all. There's only one way left. And with that, he threw himself sideways onto the ground. I blinked. From the corner of my eye, I saw Logan freeze, expression turning ugly. His hands fell to his sides, clenched tightly. Nina took half a step forward, then stopped. I caught the sly glint in Luke's eyes instantly. I dropped my racket and rushed to him. I'll take you to the infirmary. Logan stiffened and hurried around the net. Only to step on a tennis ball, twist his ankle, and let out a sharp breath as his brows knit tightly together. Without thinking, I called out, Logan. He lifted his eyes. And maybe it was my imagination. But I saw a faint flash of grievance hidden deep in them. Luke whispered frantically at my ear, character setting. Stick to your character. I lowered my gaze immediately, forcing down the ache in my chest. Then helped Luke toward the exit. As we passed Logan, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. So tightly it felt like his fingers might dig into my bones. His voice was hoarse. Low, stubborn, unwilling to yield. Kathy, I'm injured too. My heart lurched violently. But I still shook off his hand. Your injury has nothing to do with me. Logan, who do you think you are? His body swayed slightly, face darkening dangerously. I clenched my fingers hard. And besides, Luke and I are getting engaged soon. The Huber family and the Gray family are a perfect match. You? You're just a toy I got tired of. Do yourself a favor and stay out of my sight. I turned away from him, refusing to look back. Just as I took the first step, the system spoke, Logan corruption level, 81%. Second step. Logan corruption level, 82%. Third step. Logan corruption level, 83%. By the time we left the gym, Logan corruption level, 99%. The icy stare burning into my back felt like it could freeze me solid. A shiver ran straight through my bones. I patted Luke's shoulder in despair. Thanks, buddy. I'm ready to pack my bags and run. The plane ticket was booked overnight. The luggage? Shoved into the suitcase without even looking. Until my fingers brushed against the small clay figurine keychain on my desk. My heart trembled. That cold, indifferent boy who seemed to hate the world had once crafted a tiny gift for the girl he liked, ears turning red as he worked carefully. I held the keychain in my palm, stroking it gently. Then tucked it into the pocket of my coat as if it were precious. I zipped my suitcase. Grabbed the handle. Time to flee. But the system spoke with displeasure. Host, the male lead's corruption level hasn't reached 100%. Your task is not complete. There was no way I was entrusting my life to this immoral system. I needed to stay far, far away from the blackened male lead. Logan probably hated me to death by now. And if I let him reach 100% in front of me, I might not survive it. I'll just fly across the ocean and call him long distance to insult him. That should be enough. Dragging my suitcase, I reached out to open the door. No need to bother. The system added almost helpfully, you can complete the task right now. The door swung open. And Logan stood there. My legs nearly gave out. Only when the door opened did he slowly lift his head. Under those thick lashes was a pair of desolate, shattered eyes. The corners reddened. His lips curved into a fragile, self-deprecating smile. Kathy, you really are heartless. I thought. He raised his right hand, thumb brushing the scar left by the cigarette burn on his other hand. I thought you at least liked me, even just a tiny, tiny bit. My knees trembled so hard I could barely stand. My voice floated out weakly. So, are you here to capture me? But on Logan's face, there was none of the rage or madness I had prepared for. For the first time, I saw him look truly devastated. As if his grief alone could drown me. No, he whispered. I'm here to send you off. Kathy, you said, you wanted freedom. So I'll give you freedom. Real freedom. My heart jolted violently. Suddenly, an inexplicable panic surged through me. System collapse and choice. System, what happens when Logan's blackening level reaches 100%? According to the plot, he will completely hate you. After taking revenge, he'll become dark and violent, waiting for the female lead to save him. A faint chuckle escaped. Logan's lips curled into a bitter, self-mocking smile. His eyes were dull, heavy with exhaustion and self-disgust. If I said, I'd choose to die. Kathy, he said. Would you even care? Would you be happy to know that the lunatic who once tormented you is gone for good, or would there be even a sliver of sadness for me? My pupils constricted. The system emitted a sharp alarm. What's going on? The male lead's will to live is plummeting, why is it this low? Once his blackening value reaches 99%, shouldn't hatred become his driving force to survive? You're so noisy. Logan frowned, his expression dark and tired. But I hadn't said a word. All those past inconsistencies and lingering doubts suddenly snapped together in my mind like puzzle pieces. Logan, he could hear my conversations with the system. Sour grief surged up from my chest, rising to my throat and eyes. So, everything he had done was just to shield me from punishment? The system seemed to realize it too, now in a near hysterical panic. Logan, if you die, the entire world will collapse. Do you want Kathy to die with you? Collapse. Logan repeated the word softly, eyes filled with confusion and inner conflict. Then, once again, he gave that familiar, bitter smile. He hated himself so much that he now wished for destruction. But even death wasn't something he was allowed to choose. I watched the light in his eyes shatter and extinguish, piece by piece. I grabbed his thin wrist, eyes stinging. I stared into those nearly lifeless eyes. Pain throbbed in my chest, wave after wave. Tears spilled like strings of broken pearls. To hell with the system. To hell with the plot. If we're all just NPCs anyway, then no one has to keep playing along. I rose on my toes and kissed his lips softly. Logan, in the freedom I dream of. I want you to be part of it. Logan, I'm a little cowardly. Dying alone would be too lonely. But if the world is ending, somehow, I'm not afraid anymore. Because at least, you'll be right there beside me, won't you? Just like that summer when we were 18, walking hand in hand, on our way home. The system's final error. The world seemed to fall completely silent. But the warmth of skin, the touch of lips, it was all growing stronger, more vivid. After a long pause, the system let out a deep sigh. Then, with its familiar, cold mechanical voice, it announced, "Final, canonical route correction plan has failed. All 7 correction plans have now failed. I was born from the rules of this world. So now, for once, I'll bend them for you." Darkness fell suddenly. It felt like I was drifting into a long, endless dream. In the dream, the world collapsed again and again. And Logan and I fell in love again and again. In the final loop, I saw Nina. She stood before Logan, pleading for his cooperation. Tears trembled in the corners of her eyes, reflecting fear and sorrow. She said she never wanted to see Luke die in front of her again. She was losing her mind. Logan stood silently for a long time. He lowered his gaze to the little clay figurine in his palm, which wore a smile. Then he gently rubbed its tiny face with his thumb. A faint smile curled on his lips, eyes filled with gentle, lingering affection. But his voice was laced with hopeless cold. "All right. Peace, at last." On a summer night filled with the hum of cicadas, I lay on the couch with a bowl of green grapes in my arms. My still damp head rested on Logan's lap. He held a hairdryer, carefully drying my hair. His brows furrowed slightly. "Don't eat while lying down. You'll choke." He reached out, took the bowl from my stomach, and set it on the table. Then he leaned down and kissed my forehead softly. "Good girl." I gave him a defiant look. He smiled, pinched my cheek, and gently rubbed it with his thumb, reluctant to let go. "The Gray family's engagement party is tomorrow. Have you decided which dress to wear?" "Both looked great. Can I wear one in the morning, and the other in the afternoon?" His fingers brushed from my cheek to behind my ear. "Sure. I'll bring the other one with us." With the grapes gone, I stared at the ceiling, zoning out. Suddenly, a memory surfaced, and I asked, "Logan, if you hadn't heard me talking to the system, if you never knew I was forced into hurting you, what would you have done? Would you have taken revenge?" "No." His reply was firm. I tilted my head, blinking up at him. "You really wouldn't hate me. Before I heard you talking to the system, I treated you pretty badly too." He gave a low chuckle. "Hate? Maybe I did. But when I think about it, all that hate really just boils down to this: I hated that you stopped liking me. Meanwhile, I still liked you." He lowered his gaze, gently tucking my hair behind my ear. Then he looked straight into my eyes, deeply serious. "Even if, that day, it wasn't a cigarette in your hand, but a knife? I still wouldn't hesitate." I frowned, kissed him to shut him up, and shoved a green grape into his mouth. Enough of his dark, self-destructive monologues. Ah well. After all, Logan and I, we still have a long, long future ahead.